and welcome to the special edition of Talk Time. In recent weeks, there have been some fast-paced developments in the Naga peace front. Nagaland Governor and Peace Interlocutor R.N. Ravi writing a hard-hitting letter to Chief Minister Nephew Rio saying law and order in the state has collapsed and armed groups were extorting money big time. Then we saw a split in the Myanmar-based faction of the NSCN-K headed by Yung Aung. Most Naga civil society groups came out with statements expressing their unhappiness at the split and the factionalism. The working committee of the 7 Naga national political groups then extended an invitation to the Breakaway NSCN-K faction headed by Nimlang Konyak to come and join the peace process. The Nimlang Konyak group on its turn declined the offer and said their approach in achieving Naga political rights was totally different. The NNPG Working Committee then targeted the Naga Hoho, asking the apex Naga tribal body to restructure, revamp, or become irrelevant. In the middle of this, a 9-member NSCN-IM delegation has left for New Delhi to join their chairman Twingaleng Muiva in crucial last-minute talks with the government of India. Media reports doing the rounds say the NSCN-IM will be pressing for a new Naga peace interlocutor, replacing Ravi. Meanwhile, the Naga Hoho too has received an invitation from the Center for Discussions. And to top it all, the Naga Mothers Association on the 8th of August has written a letter to Prime Minister Narendra Modi seeking his direct intervention in resolving the Naga issue. Several questions arise. Are the Naga talks on its last leg? Can we expect the Naga Peace Accord by the 15th of August? Or has the Naga peace process hit a major roadblock? To answer some of these questions, I have 2 very respected voices from Nagaland on the show today. Mr. Chuba Ozukum, former president of the Naga Hoho and currently its advisor, and Dr. Rosemary Dzuvichu, a leading peace activist, advisor of the Naga Mothers Association, and a well-known academic. Welcome to Talk Time, Dr. Rosemary Dzuvichu and Mr. Chuba Ozukum. All right, let me go first to Dr. Rosemary Dzuvichu. Dr. Rosemary, on 31st of October last year, we were told that the Naga peace talks have concluded and that the peace accord was ready for signing. Today, the NSCN-IM leaders are in New Delhi talking to the government of India or getting ready for talks. What do you make of this? Why this meeting now, in your view?
Wasbir, I think this delay and continuous waiting for a settlement to be signed is of grave concern for all of us, and especially those of us who have been following the peace process. You have seen the latest developments with the letter of the governor, the extension of the Disturbed Areas Act, the profiling of state government employees in the state, and the reactions of several organizations, including the NMA, towards all these issues. There seems to be a trust deficit now within this whole peace process. On one side, you have the 7 NNPGs who seem quite ready for a settlement, whereas on the other side, you have a huge delegation of the other main group which has gone to Delhi now for talks with the government of India. The next few days, I think, will tell us what is going to be the real issues to be discussed in the days ahead. We know that the flag and the constitution is one main issue which has to be still discussed. But at the same time, you must remember there are already media reports about the replacement of the interlocutor, and there has been concerns about the interlocutor and his stance towards these political groups, calling them armed gangs, planning to take, a heavy hand. And in the midst of all this peacemaking, we must remember that throughout the world, you cannot buy peace with violence, nor can you buy peace with threats. there has to be a give and take. There has to be mutual respect and understanding, I think,
Okay.
for a real settlement to take place.
All right. Okay, we will develop on all these issues that you have raised, Dr. Rosemary Dzuvichu. So let me go to Mr. Chuba Ozukum. Mr. Ozukum, the same question to you. Fresh talks between the government of India and the NSA and IM now. What is the sense you are getting? Have things gone off track, actually?
Well, Wasbir, this is very positive note, and Nagas are very happy once again to know that the government of India have invited innocent IM leadership to meet once again and talk about the peace process and also to thresh out if there is any differences. They are going to meet after a long gap, and I think it's because of the interlocutor on the part of government of India that during the last few months, or maybe for nearly a year, the interlocutor could not carry out his duties and functions as an interlocutor, and that is why I think they could not meet for a long time. In the process, what we have also come to know is innocent IM leadership have questioned the role of the interlocutor. Innocent IM actually, I was told that you were invited by the interlocutor on 16th July last month to meet, but then maybe because of on health ground or maybe for other reasons, innocent IM leadership did not turn up to meet the interlocutor. And many occasions we have also come across that innocent IM have questioned the interlocutor on the part of the interpretation of a framework agreement.
Okay.
And also the interlocutor, when he himself has started calling armed gang or gangsters to the negotiators or the cadres of different corps, I think you are not happy. And the state government and under the directives of a governor, they've also asked the state government employees to declare their relatives if anybody is there and Naga missional movement. Likewise, there are many reasons that NSA and IM leadership were not happy, and then I think now we are demanding for the removal of the interlocutor. He have already sounded to the central government, I think.
Okay, Dr. Rosemary, on 8th of August, the Naga Mothers Association, that is your organization, has written this 4-page letter to the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, where you have said that the interlocutor has failed to bring all the Naga political groups together. Now, what do you really mean? Because the interlocutor has been engaged in the peace process for so long now, Mr. Ravi. Under his initiative, the framework agreement was signed. Under his initiative, a lot of people said that everything was settled on 31st of October. The Naga talks have concluded. Then what happened in the last 7 months, according to you?
Wasbir, yes. Today, the Naga Mothers has sent a memorandum to the Prime Minister's office. And one of the points we have raised there is about this inability of the interlocutor to bring both the sides, that is the 7 NNPGs and the NSC and IM, to a table for a political and peaceful dialogue. And I think that is one of the key points which most of us, following the peace process, have been requesting, that a time has to come when the different political groups would have to sit down together in the interest of peace and the Naga people. And this is the duty of the interlocutor to do so. Till date, as far as we know, no official sitting down of these groups have been made across the table. And I think this is why it is very difficult to talk about perhaps a common way forward. And I think this is what is going to be one of the main issues even in the days ahead.
Now, a lot of people may argue, I will be asking to Mr. Ozukum also, but first let me ask to you, Dr. Rosemary. A lot of people will be asking that, there has been a communication gap right from the beginning because the discussions took place in a very, very secretive manner. There was hardly any transparency. Of course, yes, we cannot expect any peace negotiations to be discussed with the media. I'm not expecting that. But why was this discussion not held with the civil society groups like the Naga Mothers Association, the Naga Hoho, the NSF, and so on and so forth? I'm not blaming Ravi or the interlocutor. I'm just blaming generally, both sides. Why did the Naga political groups also did not insist because they were the main negotiators? Why did they not insist that these other important civil society groups also should be discussed along the way?
Perhaps, Wasbir, the media is also not aware that several meetings have taken place with civil societies, both by the 7 NNPGs, consultations have been held with civil societies,
right,
as well as with the NSA and IM. Certain details, if not all, of some of the areas which they are putting up for their negotiations have also been made known to the different organizations that have met them. I think my point here, and which the Naga mothers have raised today, is not the communication between the organizations and these Naga political groups, but actually the communication between these political groups and the interlocutor, all the three sided corners that we are looking at. I think till date, they have been unable to sit down across the table officially. Maybe unofficially it might have happened, but officially I think it is going to be important because at the end of the day, how many settlements are we going to sign?
Right. Now, another point I would like to ask, let me go to Mr. Chuba Ozukum. Mr. Ozukum, we all know that the government of India has been talking to the NSC and IM for the past 23 years. And in the last 2 years or a little more than 2 years, active discussions have been taking place with another entity, that is the 7 Naga national groups, the Naga underground groups coming together under the banner of the NNPG. Now, would you have expected the government of India to have hold talks, at least one round, with all these groups together, 7 on one side, including the NSC, and with all these groups? Was it something that you expected?
Yeah, Wasbir, actually in the past, when we met Mr. Ravi, our interlocutor, he asked our Naga delegation at one point of time whether we are willing to bring all the groups to the negotiating table. So we said, yes, we are very much happy, and that is what we've been trying to bring all the groups to the negotiating table. So he said, then why not you all try to bring them? We said, we've been trying, we are doing that. But even on the part of government of India, you should also try to bring them. And that is what he said, yes, I will try. In the meantime, yes, the credit goes to him also that he would bring the remaining Naga political groups to the negotiating table. Now, after bringing them, I think somewhere down the line, he has again changed his mindset. Maybe neglecting other groups or the civil societies or the different organizations, even on the individuals, those who have working throughout their lifetime for bringing peace to our land, I think he has neglected a lot of them. And that is why I think till today, uh, on the part of interlocutor or even the Naga civil societies were unable to bring them together. But yes, why not government of India and particularly the interlocutor, he should try his level best to bring all the groups together to the common platform, to a negotiating table, and discuss about the settlement, political settlement. Instead of doing that, he has started neglecting people, and that's how he failed to bring all the groups together. I think.
Okay, Dr. Rosemary, the NSA and IM now it is clear the NSA and IM still has issues to settle with the government of India, while the NNPG has said that they have concluded their discussions, they have nothing to talk, they're ready to sign. This means that there was a miscommunication. This means the talks had not concluded on 31st of October last year. What do you think?
Well, Wasbir, we are not privy to such kind of information, but I think there's still some rough edges that needed to be looked into. And the fact that you now have the NSE and IM delegation up in Delhi in serious talks again, it definitely shows that actually things are not ready to be signed yet. I would still say that the days ahead would really tell us what exactly is going to happen.
Okay. Now, another thing I'd like to pick your mind, Dr. Rosemary. Do you think it is the differences within the Naga rebel groups that is causing the delay in a final settlement? After all, there has to be only one single Naga peace accord, isn't it? There cannot be one accord with the NSC and IM, one accord with the NNPG. That is not possible. That nobody is expecting that.
I think there have been difficulties expressed by certain parts of these political groups. Yes, there have been certain differences expressed. But at the same time, I think the stand of the Naga mothers and various organizations have been that since full faith has been placed on the peace interlocutor and the government of India, definitely the government of India has the authority and the means and the way forward if and the mechanisms if they really want to bring these groups together for a peaceful dialogue. And I think that is what is lacking, perhaps the political will and the understanding that peace and a settlement for the Nagas would not be complete if these groups did not come and sit across the table. And I think the initiative, many forums have tried, and there have been very good responses to certain organizations. But when you have an interlocutor that is actually perhaps not very keen to listen to people's voices, or maybe to select voices, then I think this is the kind of concerns we are facing now, and this is actually the crux of the matter.
No, Mr. Ozukum, don't you think it will be absolutely unfair to say that Mr. Ravi did not do anything, because he has prepared the ground. Nobody can deny that led to the signing of the framework agreement. He has fast-tracked the thing, leading to a lot of things being covered, leading up to 31st of October last year. But what about differences within the Naga rebel groups? Because it is very clear that while the NSCNIM is asking for the flag and the constitution, the NNPC said earlier, according to media reports, that we can discuss this later on. Let the accord be first signed. But what does this indicate?
Yeah, we cannot say that Ravi has not done anything in the past. As I said earlier, we should also thank him. The credit goes to him for bringing the different groups to the negotiating table. It was Ravi who had signed the framework agreement, followed by the signing of principle or the agreed position, what we call it. And yes, no doubt. Apart from that, he has done many things, and he must have tried many things to resolve the differences. But now the question is, the different rebel groups or the different political groups they are unable to come together. It should be the responsibilities of each and every Naga citizen, and especially the interlocutor, to give our best to bring all the groups together instead of trying to make more division. That is what I feel. And also, when it comes to the constitution and the flag, because according to Anderson IM, they are saying that flag in constitution, this is something which is non-negotiable. And if we are to analyze the contents of the framework agreement, I think this is very much valid. It's very much, correct on the part of Anderson IM to say that they should have their separate flag and constitution. They are not demanding, or for that matter, even on the part of Naga people, we are not demanding something from the government of India to grant us, but this is our legitimate right to have a separate flag and the constitution. Since my childhood days, I've seen my parents, and the Naga people, they've started using a Naga flag in all the occasions. When it comes to constitution, under this constitution, all the Naga political groups, they have been running their own government. So it's not a question of demanding flag and constitution from the government of India. Rather, this is our inherent rights, and that is what I think government of India should understand.
Dr. Rosemary, looking back, why do you think Governor Ravi wrote that hard-hitting letter to Chief Minister Nephew Rio? That is everybody would like to know, because is it because of this that SNIM is seeking replacement of the interlocutor? But what is the core of the governor's letter? Governor has said that there has been rampant extortion going on in the name of tax, quote unquote. Now, but that is something which is going on, and don't you think that is extortion which is going on? And in today's letter, the NM and Naga Mothers Association has said to the Prime Minister that it was the responsibility of the governor, the interlocutor, as well as the Ceasefire Monitoring Group chairman, who are both based in Kohima, to look into these issues. But do you think the governor, why do you think the governor was wrong in pointing this out?
It is a difficult question to answer, Wasbir, because at this point in time, we are unable to really read the mind of the interlocutor, who is also the governor of the state. Being the constitutional head, I would still reiterate on what the Naga mothers have stated earlier and what we have also written. The constitutional head of the state, the governor of the state, in touch with the chief minister, and also having the chairman of the Ceasefire Monitoring Group based in the capital, I think there were various means and ways of talking to these armed groups, of addressing issues of extortion, which of course the business community have raised, which many sections of the public have raised, and I think these are issues that could have been addressed much earlier. And I'm not very sure, did it come to a point where it was mandatory for him to write a letter to the chief minister, which unfortunately became a subject in the public domain, even if it wasn't meant to be? One really doesn't know. And I wish news channels like y'all would also interview the interlocutor and the honorable governor, because till date, we're yet to see any response in the last few weeks and months of debate over this famous letter. We're still yet to see any response from the Raj Bhavan itself. And I think the fact that it is also a public office where public grievances are to be heard, where people's voices are to be heard, it is important at some point or the other, even for television channels like you all, to have an appointment and maybe to be given an appointment to hear his side of the story. We are just civilians, we are just observers, and definitely people and women who want peace in our land. And we have, over the years, in our associations with him, as well as with the government of India, as well as with the Naga political groups, I think we have given
Right.
our feelings across. We have put our feelings across on many, many occasions.
Right. As Dr. Rosemary, as professional journalist, we will be happy to interview the governor and the interlocutor, despite knowing that will be having restrictions. We are not expecting him to tell us everything. But yes, as a professional journalist, we would be happy. I would be happy to interview the governor and take his views on some of the issues. But my point to you, I'm coming to you, Mr. Ozukum, but Dr. Rosemary, you have leveled a very serious allegation against the governor, very strong words. You have said that the governor or the interlocutor is threatening and intimidating, hounding is the word you use, not intimidating, threatening and hounding the Naga political groups with whom he is supposed to be holding talks. Don't you think it is too harsh a word to use, actually, or do you get that impression?
See, we have been watching this peace process for the last many months. The inability of the group, one of the groups at least, to come and sit down for a sitting, and also the lack of understanding. There have been various statements which have been made to different organizations by the interlocutor, which gives us a feeling that perhaps he has changed his opinion about the way to peace and about the way forward to peace. And as our letter itself says, I think peace would really not come if you're going to resort to threats, and intimidations, or maybe make assumptions. I really don't think these are the ways ahead for peace to come into our land. We are very well aware of the psyche and the mentality of our Naga men. And we must remember, these are men who are trained to fight in the jungles. They are not men who are just sitting here today. Many, many of them are people who have survived the hard life of the jungles. And therefore, if we are talking of peace, it has to be mutual respect. It must be with the idea of peace and justice in our minds. And I think unless that is there on the negotiating table, it is going to be very difficult to see the days ahead and to really have sustainable peace.
Okay, but Mr. Ojukum, having come thus far, 23 years of negotiations without a break, non-stop, that is not an ordinary matter. Having come thus far, can the Naga political groups really go back now? I'm not saying that you have to accept an unacceptable solution. It has to be acceptable. It has to be honorable. That is what everyone is expecting: acceptable and honorable solution to a long-standing problem. Now, my question is, will a new peace interlocutor at this advanced stage of the negotiations help? In what way can it help, or do you think there is no way out?
Yeah, Wasbir, when it comes to the struggle, the Naga struggle, if the ongoing peace process is not going to bring out any tangible solution, honorable and acceptable, then I don't find any better days. Our future is very black. And the Naga people, even the Naga youth,
Yeah.
they will not hesitate to join the movement and struggle further till we achieve our desired goal. So now the question is how far the government of India and particularly the interlocutor is serious, whether they are really trying to bring our political dialogue to an amicable solution, a logical conclusion? That is the question now.
No.
The interlocutor, on his part, you see, Wasbir, if you read one of his articles, which he has written a few years back, it was written in 2012 and it was republished once again in 2013, called Chasing Chimeric Beast. You know, after going through his write-up, in fact, at one point of time, Naga Hoho has pointed out, we have written to the Prime Minister of India not to appoint him as the interlocutor. We have come to know his mindset, and we thought that he will not be the right person to bring amicable solution. Because right from that time, his intention was to divide among the Naga people. But he was appointed. So it was helpless on our part. We did not protest. But we had to calm down and then start meeting him. And yes, he was very much forthcoming in the beginning also. But in the process, I don't know, somewhere down the line, it has gone very wrong. So this is the thing. Now, his mindset, I think now he is really trying to exhibit. That is where it's not working out.
Okay, I mean, we'll have to wait and watch. That is your point of view. We'll have to wait and watch. But Dr. Rosemary, as someone who has been working relentlessly to unite the Naga group so that there can be lasting peace in the Naga areas, are you surprised that the NSCN-K has undergone 2 splits during the last 2 years? Will this impact the peace process? 2018. The NSCN-K, they impeached Khango Konyak. So Khango Konyak had no way but to come back to his native village in Mon district, along with his loyalists, join the peace process. Then the Yumyang group was continuing in Myanmar. And then 28th of July, Nimlang Konyak, Niki Sumi and others, they decided to come out, form their own group. They were later expelled. So all these developments, are you surprised at these developments? How is it going to impact?
I think, like any other organization, life is tough that side, and with the militarization that's going on from both sides, from the Myanmar army as well as from the Indian army, I'm very sure it has brought in also a lot of other side effects. Yes, the recent split of General Niki and Nyamlong from the main group is something that people are watching and analyzing. You must have also read the letter which has come out of the appeal to the group, to the party from the 7 NNPGs to join them. But today we also have a reply from
they have rejected the invitation to join the peace process.
They have refused. Yes, they have refused. Yes. And I think we also need to understand, and I think I would still reiterate on my statement made earlier, that a lot of these leaders, Naga political leaders who are there on the other side, and also leaders who have fought from the other side earlier and who are now back in the urban areas, they are all men who are trained to bear hardships, who also have certain ideologies. And I don't think these are ideologies that are going to change overnight. In the coming days, I really don't see them coming towards this side to make a peace with India. The Naga mothers have made 4 trips across the borders for discussions and for peace building. But it is evident that I don't think we are going to see them moving towards this side, perhaps further east, for all we know.
Right. Yes, we are aware of your visits across the Naga Mother delegation going, taking all the trouble, etc. I mean, that the Naga people are aware about those efforts. Now, Mr. Ozukum, the NNPG Working Committee has directly targeted the Naga Hoho, asking it to restructure or revamp or almost called it irrelevant. Now, why has the NNPG come up with such a view against an apex tribal body of the Nagas like the Naga Hoho? You had been the president of Naga Hoho, today you are its advisor. What do you think?
Yeah, Wasbir, that's very interesting question. To me, uh, I really don't understand why the working group they had to come out with such statement. And honestly speaking, for me and for Nagaho, any Naga political group, any important functionaries or the entire cadres and all the political groups, they are all equal before Nagaho. And this is something like, father and son. All the Naga
Yeah.
political groups and the cadres, they are like son to Nagaho. And we are there to protect the wishes and the interests of each and every Naga political group. When it comes to, peace settlement or resolution or Naga movement or whatever, right from the beginning, ever since the formation of Nagaho, what I know is they have really struggled to bring reconciliation among all the Naga political groups. My
Yeah.
predecessors, all of them have done that. Even during my time, I've tried. We've gone even to Myanmar to meet Baba Kaplang and his uh, colleagues to tell them to renew the ceasefire with the government of India. Of course, we failed. And even before that, when Baba Kaplang was alive, we have given attempt to bring all the groups together. And that was the activities of Naga Hoho. But unfortunately, I don't know uh, why the working group had to come out like this. Yes, no doubt, Naga people are not united. It's not only Naga political groups, but the civil societies in Nagaland state, as of now, we are not united. We have a lot
Is
of
this,
differences. That is why, we're facing all these kind of problems,
are you a
which is very
sad
unfortunate.
person today to see the state of affairs? You are saying that Naga groups, civil society groups are not united, and that is maybe one of the reasons why we are seeing the state of affairs.
Exactly, you're right. When the Naga people are not united, when we have sharp differences, we also cannot expect the best thing.
Dr. Rosemary, that's a very significant point which Mr. Chuba Ozukum has said. He's saying that Naga civil society is so fragmented and sharp differences. Now, will it be correct to believe, Dr. Rosemary, that the cohesive, united voice among the Nagas is just missing, is just not there? Do you think it is too much to expect an interlocutor? Today it is Ravi. There were a lot of interlocutors in the past. Do you think it is a little too much to expect only the interlocutor to keep everything united? Everybody united?
No, definitely not. That is not expected from him. But you must remember that the fragmentation actually has come out from the tribal bodies, and this is also with certain reasons connected to the kind of future which these Naga political groups are offering for the future. It is also a lot to do with borders and boundaries. It is also a lot to do with tribal affiliations. And the differences is basically within the tribe bodies. As far as organizations that are following the peace process, I don't think we have any differences. We all do the kind of work that we are supposed to do. We are peacekeepers. We are pressure groups, both on the Naga political groups as well as with the government of India and also with the state government. But I think differences between the tribal areas and the tribal bodies are serious matters which only they can reconcile and decide for themselves.
Okay. Now you see, Mr. Ozukum, there is an impression that the Nagas are more divided than before because now it has become a reality. The peace accord may be signed anytime, and some of the differences may be overcome, in the coming days, despite all odds. Now, do you think it is a post-accord race for power that also could be behind the differences coming to the fore now at this juncture? Do you think it could be like that, or do you think it is too much to speculate?
Yeah, that also may be one of the reasons because Naga people, what I am saying is, we are very much strong in analysis, and also at the same time, political consciousness is very much strong. So maybe whether it is civil societies or the different political groups might be thinking that what kind of post settlement scenario would be.
Yeah.
And power struggle will be there, there's no doubt. And as human beings, they have every right to think about it. But then the priority is how to resolve the problem with the government of India. How long our people will be under such situation?
No.
We have to grow. Our younger generation have to come up.
Yes.
They have to live in this world in par with the outside world, and that should be the priority.
Right.
So.
Now, yeah, very, very significant point you are making, Mr. Ozukum. Dr. Rosemary, as a prominent peace activist, do you think that the peace process could have been conducted differently? We have seen in the last 23 years, there was this all negotiations in several international capitals, starting from Amsterdam to Chiang Mai to Bangkok to Rome to all other places. Do you think it could have been conducted differently in a little bit more transparent manner, perhaps, or do you think it was just fine?
Wasbir, as someone who also studies peace resolutions in other parts of the world, we need to understand that there are lessons for us to look at. And in most of these lessons, it has been a lot to do with transparency. It has also been a lot of support from communities concerned, stakeholders. There has also been a strong presence of women at the negotiating table and in these kind of negotiations. And looking at the way the Naga peace process has come about and the negotiations have come about, initially there has been a lot of secrecy. There has been no transparency at all. But I think over the last few years or so, the public have been, I think, a very strong part of the kind of negotiations and the kind of encouragements that have taken place. So also even youth organizations who have supported the peace process. And I think the idea in everyone's mind is that we want peace. There has to be once and for all a settlement, and let everyone, especially the younger generation, look forward to the future in peace. It is time now, I think, for all Naga leaders, particularly the leaders of tribes, the state politicians, people at the helm of different organizations, to put ourselves behind and our
Right.
self-interest behind and think of peace for the future generation and the younger generation. And I think
Absolutely.
unless we think of this, we
Absolutely.
are really not going to have the kind of peace we are envisioning.
No, very true, very true. Now, Mr. Ozukum, we have seen the Major National Front, we have seen the MNF Accord that was reached smoothly in 1986. The Congress government of Mr. Lalthanhawla resigned, and Pul Aldenga, the MNF Supremo, was made the interim chief minister. Now, is the situation in the Naga areas more complex as Nagas are divided along tribal lines and there are so many Naga political groups and are spread out across the region as well as in adjoining Myanmar? So, so that means the Naga Accord, the post Accord, everything is going to be much more difficult than what the MNF Accord was.
Yes, no doubt it will be more difficult because, as we know, when it comes to Mizo Accord
Yeah.
and people of Mizoram, they have one single language, and there was no such division like the Naga people, and they are under one compact area. So, in such a scenario or situation,
Yeah.
there will not be problem, like the Naga people as of now. So yes, there will be a lot of problems that we can foresee, even after the signing of the
The Accord.
agreement.
Dr. Rosemary, we have seen that the NNPG has said that they have discussed with the government of India matters relating to Naga interest in Myanmar. Discussion is fine, but do you think India can directly do something to benefit Naga interest in a different country altogether?
Wasbir, it's going to be difficult looking at the way the borders have been frozen. But at the same time, I think if we had to look at India's Act East policy and the Look East policy, which the Honorable Prime Minister have been really publicizing and propagating, there are a lot of things that can be done. The kind of poverty and abject health care, lack of education, these are all major issues where the government of India can reach out
Absolutely.
to adjoining areas along the borders. There is already a heavy buildup of militarization, no doubt, but we have also seen social service by the military in many other areas too. And instead of ambushing, killing, and creating these kind of conflicts, the government of India would really make it worthwhile if it were to really look forward, look eastwards, and build relationships across these borders. And I think for all these groups, whether it is the NNPGs or even, for that matter, even the NSC and IM, you must remember all of them are men who have lived in these areas. And they do have the experience and the kind of development that is needed for these Nagas who live in these areas. And you must remember, villages are being divided. One village is divided by an international border running through. Villagers are not allowed to step into the other side. At times even to visit your neighbor across, your relative across. So it is these man-made boundaries actually really need to go if we are looking at a political settlement at the end of the day. But it would require, I would still insist, it would require a very broadened leadership and vision of looking eastwards and making the most of even the international trade centers that exist on the borders of Nagaland.
Right. I think it requires a very, very hard political will is necessary, determined political will. Mr. Ozukum, my final question to you. The Breakaway NSCNK faction in Myanmar, headed by Nyamlang Ponyak, has declined NNPG invitation to come and join the peace process. But this means even if the Naga Accord is signed tomorrow, at least two Naga rebel groups will still be active in the neighborhood. So how do you view this?
Wasbir, actually, I don't know how far it is true that Mr. Nemlang have declined about the invitation being sent by Mr. Kidubi. Having said that, uh, I've not heard properly, but I've heard Rosemary saying something about this India's intervention in Myanmar.
Interest of the Nagas in Myanmar.
Yeah. Once the political problem is solved between government of India and the Naga people, the Nagas in India, it will be, very easy on our part to penetrate in our Naga areas in Myanmar collectively. It will not be a government of India alone or the Naga people alone.
Right.
But with, through a collective effort that we can intervene, and then I think we can solve our problem even in Myanmar.
We'll have to.
That is what we believe.
Yeah.
And also considering the kind of closeness between Myanmar and India, everything can be done. And for instance, when government of India and the military can convince Damato or the Myanmar army to chase after the Naga, Naga people in Myanmar or the guiders from Indonesian Key, I think it shows that India can do a lot in Myanmar.
India can do a lot if it wants.
So that is one thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And coming to the settlement, if we put our effort collectively with all seriousness, I think many things can be done, even for the remaining Naga political groups under Myanmar. That is what I believe.
Okay. All right. Final word to you, Dr. Rosemary. How do you see the road ahead? Are you still optimistic? Because we are all waiting for a final resolution of the long-standing Naga political problem at the end of the day.
Wasbir, at the end of the day, you will find that as far as Naga women are concerned, we have always been very optimistic for the simple reason that we have been the largest and biggest victims of this long drawn-out war. No one wants another war to come. We don't want Indian soldiers to die, nor do we want Naga groups to die. I think the way forward has to be of peace, but peace with justice and peace with dignity.
Peace with dignity, that is what everybody wants. Every Naga wants peace with dignity. And the Northeast also is expecting an early resolution of the Naga problem, acceptable and honorable solution to the Naga problem. Things are not simple, but not impossible to achieve results. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Rosemary Dzuvichu and Mr. Chuba Ozukum, for giving me so much time for this discussion on a very, very critical issue that the region is facing today. Thank you very much once again.